These are the Secret Service agents who are prepared to give their own lives to protect the Commander-in-Chief. Each of these men must be tactful, firm, agile, decisive, quick of thought, and quick of act. For no Secret Service man can tell when his training and his judgment may save the life of the President of the United States.
The Secret Service began full-time protection of the President after the 1901 assassination of William McKinley. After a 1950 attempt on President Truman's life, that protection was extended to the entire First Family. Highly trained security experts, agents also play the role of armed babysitters, which often creates an intimacy with the President's children.
This is when I was assigned to the Eisenhower grandchildren. That's David and Barbara Ann and Susie and Mary Jean. And then this was a Kennedy Christmas present.
This was taken, Caroline had her pony macaroni, and we brought it into the White House. I got a lot of ribbing over this, though. You know, what are you doing? You're a Secret Service agent? This is protection?
Well, you know, I looked at my Secret Service agents as always having my big brothers with me. Having grown up in a fairly male household, I just looked at it as having brothers with me, you know, picking my dates and, oh, you don't want to go out with him again. Ours was really a trust relationship. I got to know my agents, I respected them.
Have the Secret Service men bothered you much on tour?
Well, they follow me on tour, but they don't go with me on my dates.
Do you want to take a bet on that?
Oh, I'm positive they don't. I put my foot down on that in the beginning.
Secret Service agents attended preschool with the President's grandchild, Cameron, son of Michael Reagan.
One of the little kids walks up to the Secret Service agent and tugs on his pant leg and says, "Mr. Potty?" And the agent brushes his hand away, and the little boy tugs again, "Potty," brushes his hand away. Next thing you know, the little kid's going, "Now!" And the agent looks down, and this little kid's got his pants dropped, and he's urinating on the left leg of the agent down into his shoes.
John fell and bumped himself, and he jumped up. The first thing he did was he ran to me, and I picked him up and holding him, and the next thing I knew, too, President Kennedy was out of his office and came out to see what happened, and I immediately turned the son over.
In 1924, John Coolidge had gotten stuck with a 51-year-old agent for his roommate at Amherst. Stephen Ford chose to skip college while his father was in the spotlight and went to work on an isolated Montana ranch. Out on the range, his Secret Service agents had to endure his teenage pranks.
Shot the gun off 3 or 4 times, knew the Secret Service guy heard it. I'd get off my horse, lay over the saddle. This cowboy takes my cowboy hat, hangs it on the horn of his saddle, and he comes leading my horse in with me over the saddle around the corner. The Secret Service guy looks up, sees me over the saddle, jumps out of the truck, and the first words out of his mouth, he goes, "My career, my career."
For those who protect the President's children, the line between career and family sometimes blurs. In her 1969 autobiography, Kennedy family nanny Maud Shaw said she loved John and Caroline as if they were her own. She also reported, however, that JFK loved to show off his family, and he had referred to Caroline as the greatest vote-getter of all. In charge of protecting the stomachs of the President's children are the White House kitchen staff. Gourmet chef Henry Haller apprenticed in Switzerland's finest kitchens before spending 40 years and 5 administrations as head of the White House kitchen. There, his duties included making Amy Carter's favorite lunch, meatloaf sandwiches.
We leave with high hopes, in good spirit, and with deep humility.
I was there 7:30 in the morning, and there was President Nixon in his bare feet, in his pajamas, in the kitchen, and talking to the butler. And then he came over to me and shook hands with me, and he said, "Chef, I have been eating all over the world, but your food is the best." So I thought that was a very nice compliment, because he had plenty on his mind, you know.
White House staff exist to remove mundane worries from the First Family. Some might say to spoil them.
They're the housekeepers who are wonderful. And when you're a teenager, I mean, you take a shower and you lay a towel down on the floor and come back 15 minutes later and it's gone and your laundry is done.
These were the people who had served Lucy during her stay in the White House, who saw her grow, who saw her exchange the unrestrained buoyancy of a young girl for the quiet maturity of a young woman.
The people who live with you 16, 18-hour days become far more than employees. You know, their dreams, their heartaches, their hopes, their child's illness, their laughter, that's all part of your heart and is forever.
To show her affection, she presented each one of the staff with a photograph. It was a favorite picture of Lucy's and showed the informality that she wanted others to think of when they thought of her and Pat.
I think you could tend to feel like you were becoming close, but you had to realize you were there. You weren't there because they wanted you there, but you were there to do a job, and you had to maintain that.
Nevertheless, tragedy can bring employer and employee together.
The president went over to say hello to a few people who were on the fence line. Then he turned around, he came back, and he tousled John's hair and said, "You take care of John for me, Mr. Foster." And he got on the airplane.
The man who became 35th president less than 3 years ago is dead. On his 3rd birthday, a last salute from John to his father.
When Agent Paul Landis became overwhelmed by his own grief, he knew it was time to resign.
I stayed for 6 months, and then it just got to be too much for me then, and I had to leave.
For children of the president, Secret Service protection after the White House only continues until the age of 16. But some have chosen to maintain the bond they developed with their protectors.
The Secret Service has had some reunions, and they've been kind enough to invite my sister and or me to them, and those have been very special.
I just got an announcement that one of them became a grandfather, which is a really scary thought.
Barbara Ann Eisenhower, I get a Christmas card still from her every year, and I think that's kind of nice that she goes to the trouble, has gone to the trouble to do that.